All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we have a Washington Wizards versus Miami Heat recap. The Wizards are just continuing to do it. They're continuing to do it. They are 11-5 on the season and 7-1 at home. This was a crazy comeback win. The Washington Wizards finished tonight with 103 points, but there was a point. It was like 6:20 left in the third quarter. PJ Tucker just drains a corner three to put the Miami Heat up 60. It was at least 60. It might have been 63, but they had 60 points to 47 for Washington. So Washington had gone halfway through the third quarter, still had yet to cross 50 points, and then Raul Neto comes down, gets an and one, puts him at 50, and that really was the start. So the Washington Wizards, they're blowing my mind. Every single time I watch the Wizards play, they blow my mind. And this was a very, very good win because they're back at home. They just lost to the Miami Heat on the road in what was a tough game. Washington's been struggling in the last few games to score the ball offensively. Tonight they still had some issues, but they were able to really come through on the defensive end, and they really made their shots when it mattered. Now, outside of the second quarter, the offense was, for the most part, very efficient, very much good enough, at the very least, very much good enough, except for that second quarter where they scored, I think it was 15 points. Now, the Wizards have had a pretty easy-ish month of November. I still think this team is going to make the playoffs. Now, I don't believe they're the third seed in the East right now. I don't think that they'll maintain home field advantage or home court advantage. This isn't football. I don't think that they'll be able to maintain a top four seed in the Eastern Conference. I think the East, it's way too deep. It's way too good. And soon some teams are going to start to, they're going to hit their groove, right? You got the Chicago Bulls, you got the Milwaukee Bucks, you've got the Brooklyn Nets, you've got the Philadelphia 76ers. I really love my Chicago Bulls, but like you have a good amount of teams that are going to be fighting for that top four seed. Now, granted, Washington, they've been in that the whole season. They have been a top four seed pretty much the entirety of the season. So shout out to Washington. And here's the thing. I think a lot of Wizards fans maybe didn't see this coming this quickly, but a lot of Wizards fans knew this was coming eventually because last year, especially at the end, they really started to piece it together. I mean, they made the playoffs. You had Russell Westbrook, who, in my opinion, makes majority of teams worse. I think Russ makes most teams that he goes to worse just because it either takes Russell Westbrook to adapt, which isn't going to happen, or it takes the whole team to adapt to playing with Russell Westbrook, which just usually, aka always, does not work because, I mean, unless you give him like a dominant small forward like Kevin Durant, like LeBron James, I don't think Russ helps most teams. So I think a lot of Wizards fans saw this coming, especially after the trade with the Lakers, where they acquired a whole plethora of players. Just last year's trade deadline in general. Honestly, last year's trade deadline in general treated them very, very well. And I give a lot of credit to that front office. I give pretty much all the, not all the credit to the front office, but I give a lot of credit to that front office. You had John Wall go down for a couple of years. You still had Bradley Beal. You bring in Russ. You trade Russ. You get a great return in KCP. You get Kyle Kuzma. You get Montrezl Harrell. Like, this Wizards team is legit right now, and they should be able to make the playoffs even though Russell Westbrook isn't there, which I think helps them. So before we actually go any further into this video, I would really appreciate if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like button, hitting that sub button. If you guys are new here, we're trying to hit 9,000 subscribers by the end of the month. Appreciate it a lot. My Twitter is also down below. Now, Miami has really good defense. Like, Miami is one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, and they were really demonstrating. I mean, they demonstrated it through 2.5 quarters tonight. Washington has just a phenomenal team sense. Like, their team defense, their team offense, they're clicking on all cylinders. And as good as the Miami Heat's defense is, it was not enough tonight. It just was not enough tonight. So let's get into some player stats. And I'll briefly talk about the Miami Heat here because Jimmy Butler is, I believe he's averaging 25, 5, and 5 on the season right now. I mean, tonight, 29 points, had some defensive stats, did a little bit of everything. Jimmy Butler is having a very, very good year, and the Miami Heat are sitting there at 11-6. So don't sleep on the Miami Heat. They're really struggling on the road this season. They just can't really seem to kind of catch their groove. But at home, the Miami Heat have been phenomenal. Tyler Hero continues his impressive season. He dropped 20 points off the bench. Bam Adebayo, only 6 rebounds for him, 15 points. It was not Bam Adebayo's best night, best showing. Now, here's where it gets fun. The Wizards deployed a lineup of KCP, Beal, Dinwiddie, Gafford, Kuzma tonight, and there wasn't really anybody outside of Bradley Beal where I would say, like, kind of blew my mind. However, you had KCP and Spencer Dinwiddie for the most part throughout the entirety of the game, except, that second quarter where he scored 15 points. But KCP and Spencer Dinwiddie in the last quarter, fourth quarter specifically, with less than 6 minutes to play, maybe even less, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, they were hitting big shot after big shot. I mean, they were hitting big shot after big shot. I had some issues with Dinwiddie. I still don't understand what this whole, like throw it over their heads, but it's like people can jump. You ever heard of jumping? So it's still don't. And Dinwiddie does that sometimes where he throws it really, he'll throw an inbound pass really high, and it's it's like they're playing baseball in the outfield. It's players can jump, right? I don't think that really helps too much. So that's my only issue with Spencer Dinwiddie. But really, where I see the biggest difference this year with the Wizards team is just their added on depth. Not only, first off, their improvement, right? They just got better than last year. Their players, they're continuing to develop. They have a very young team. They're getting better and better. But secondly, their depth got significantly better. And obviously, I mentioned that Lakers trade, but even guys like Daniel Gafford, who, you look at his stats tonight, I mean, they weren't great, -11 on the plus-minus, didn't really do anything statistically, 4 turnovers, 4 fouls. But guys like Daniel Gafford, especially long-term, the Wizards are going to be very happy they have him, and I know Wizards fans are very happy just in general with their team. I love watching Wizards games because their team, their fans, they get so into it. I'm literally I love watching Wizards home games because, especially tonight where they came back, it's just the whole crowd loves it. The whole crowd is feeding into the energy of the comeback, and it's just so cool to see. But their bench tonight just did so good. Aaron Holiday, Raul Neto is so solid. Montrezl Harrell, Avdija, Corey Kispert even pitched in a little bit tonight. It's just a very, very solid team, and obviously they're without a whole bunch of players. I like even a lot of their younger picks that they had. The Wizards, they know what they're doing, and they are definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with in the next couple of years. So that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I will see you guys later.